Good evening and welcome to episode 6 of the Gorgie Boys podcast with myself, Graeme Duthie, here live on YouTube. Also, we're trying to stream live to X, but I don't think it's working. But I am here. We'll see how long this goes on for. Last week I had a guest on, Craig Cairns, which was great, lasted an hour. We'll see how long today goes on for. Here to talk, of course, about Heart and Midlothian Football Club, my passion and my joy, although after a day that maybe wouldn't be quite necessary. After a 1-0 defeat to Dundee United, which means that we now have one more game left to finish top 6 and guarantee that top 6, which we should have done today, but we didn't. Before I come into that, as I say, the live chat, as always, is open. I am live on YouTube, so the live chat is open. So get your comments in. But as always, keep it clean. But before I get in to talk about the game today, I want to talk about something that obviously happened during the week. Now, I'm pretty sure everyone's seen this by now. There was a working group put together to discuss the possibility of league reconstruction in Scotland. And sadly, they decided that the best way to do that was to have a top 10 Premiership division, which was just ludicrous. And I said that at the time. Going by pretty much everyone on social media, on WhatsApp groups, on every single social media site, that was met with a lot of negativity, which I understand. Because if you want to improve the Scottish game, you don't make it less, you make it more. Everyone wants a bigger league. Now, in 2020, when Hearts got relegated, and this isn't because of the whole Hearts situation, Partick Thistle were involved in that as well, but what they should be doing is making the league bigger, and I think going for a 16-team league, I don't know why they thought that a 10-team league was a good idea. The St Johnstone chairman, I think, came out and said that he was dead against it. If I go back to yesterday and listen to Sports Sound yesterday and the build-up to some of the games yesterday, they were talking about it, and they all said the same thing. You need to have a bigger league, not a smaller one. Now, they basically talked about a 14-team league, a 16-team league. John Robertson mentioned a 16-team league, which I'm quite behind. Alan Preston said it'll be a 14-team league. Because the one thing the ESPF want, the one thing the TV companies want, they want the guaranteed 4 games between Celtic and Rangers. They don't care about anything else. They're not bothered about any other teams apart from Celtic and Rangers, which I know it's happened for a long, long time. But if you want to make the league better and more competitive, you don't lower it to a 10-team league. I don't know why they thought it was a good idea. There is a meeting on the 29th of April with this working group where they were going to talk about this. And it does look like, again, a couple of days ago, the Daily Record came out with a thing about the fact that nobody wants a 10-team league, which is I'm glad they've come out with because it was never going to work. I mean, who was going to vote for that? I don't see any team in the Premier Division, Championship, League 1, League 2 voting for a 10-team league. It's just ridiculous. It was never going to work. If it's not going to be a 12-team league like it is just now, and I get why a lot of folk don't like the 12-team because of the split. I think it was mentioned a couple of days ago as well that if you're an outsider looking in, and don't get me wrong, I know a lot of folk don't care about Scottish football, but if you're an outsider looking in and you're seeing the team in 7th with more points than the team in 6th, that does look a bit tin pot. Now, of course, the top 6 split this season's going down to the wire, because next week, I'll come on to Hearts in a minute, but next week, we do have that battle for top 6, which is going to come down to next week. So it is competitive, but I don't mind if the league stays at 12, I don't mind that. If it goes to 14, goes to 16, I don't mind that. I think there's teams in the Championship that I would quite like to see in the Premier Division. Falkirk will come up. You know, Falkirk have been great in the Championship. They'll come up. They extended the league yesterday, so they will come up. But I'd like to see like Ayr United, Livingston, Partick Thistle in the Premier Division. I think it would be great. I think they'd add value to the league. So I have no issue with having an extended league. I think it would be far, far better. I do not understand, like I said, why they even thought about making it a 10-team league. It just made no sense to me. So it does look like that is going to basically be put on the back burner, and we will hopefully see common sense. And this meeting, there might be plans for a 12, 14 or 16-team league. Archie B says, what teams would come up if it was a 14 or 16-team league? Hang on, just get the comments up here. And would the relegated teams go down or stay up? See, for me personally, I actually wouldn't mind 2 up, 2 down. I think that would make more sense. Again, the playoff really is designed for the Premier League teams, because if you actually look at it, the Premier League teams always have the second leg at home. So I actually do think it benefits the Premier League teams. Very rarely do you see a Premier League team go down through the playoff. I would like to see a league where it is 2 up, 2 down, And I think a 16-team league would do that. I'm all for that. Like, I agreed with what John Robertson said last night. I was in complete agreement with that. I do get why a lot of folks think it might be better on a 14-team league, but I just think a 16-team league looks a lot better. So I am all for a 16-team league. I think you want to make the league more competitive. It does get boring, a 12-team league, because you're playing the same teams maybe 4 times a season. If you play them in the cup, maybe 5 or 6 times a season, it does get boring. It does get stale. I'd like to see something different. I would like to see a bit of a change, but not to a 10-team league. I don't know why they thought a 10-team league was a good idea. And that, thankfully, looks like it has been canned. It's been binned. And I'm glad about that, because it was a ridiculous idea. Nobody, not one person that I've seen on social media, has actually said, do you know, I think a 10-team league is not a bad idea. Everyone's against it. And so they should be. It was a stupid idea. And when this meeting comes on the 29th of April, nothing will get decided then, but they will talk about it. And I think it will be basically, it'll stay as a 12 or it'll go to 14 or 16. But I am all for a bigger league. I am all for a 16-team league personally. And I hope it happens. It would be better for Scottish football if we get smaller teams, clubs up every finds our league system tin pot. Yeah, again, that's what I just said. When you're outside looking in, and I keep talking about the fact that a lot of folk don't care about Scottish football. Like, I get that. But if you look at it and see that the team in 7th has got more points than the team in 6th, it does look stupid. So I definitely would be all for a 16-team league and just make it more competitive. And I genuinely think if you look at the Championship, I've said it before, the Championship's a really good league. It is very competitive. It's very tight. Obviously, Falkirk can run away with it, which is fine. They've been excellent. John McGlynn's playing a brand of football that, could he do it next season and stay up in the Premiership? I think he probably could. He would have to sign. He would have to sign players in the summer, but I think they'll be fine in the Premiership. So, yeah, I'm all for a 16-team league and making it more competitive, because I do think at times the 12-team league it just gets a bit stale for me. But what doesn't get stale is this race for top 6. Now, going into today, Hearts had it in the control. We were a point ahead of St Mirren and Motherwell. They both lost yesterday, which meant that today Hearts had a big opportunity to finish 6th and guarantee that top 6 place before we play Motherwell next week. And we did make 4 changes to the team that played against Celtic last week. So out went Cammy Devlin, out went Lawrence Shankland, out went Harry Milne, and also out went, who was the other one that came out? I can't remember. Anyway, we made 4 changes to the team today. So we lined up basically on a 4-2-4 formation. That's what Hearts Standard had. So it was Craig Gordon in goal, back 4 of Penrice at left back, Forrester at right back, and Michael Steinwender was joined by Jamie McCart. It was great to see McCart back. I thought I might go for Craig Halkett, because Halkett was actually back last week on the bench. I thought I might go for him, but we didn't. I was glad to see McCart back. George Grant came in alongside Benny Maringame. Then also coming in was Blair Spittle on the left-hand side and Sandor Khartoum on the right-hand side. Out went Lawrence Shankland, and it was a front 2 of Elton Kabangu and James Wilson. Archie asked, do you think we Hearts can even get top 5? Don't see us getting personally. I will come to that. I'm not confident, I've got to be honest. But I was quite pleased with the lineup. I didn't mind the lineup. It was a bold move, dropping Lawrence Shankland. I'm a big fan of Shankland. I've said it before. I do like him. It was a bold move, going to 4-2-4. Vargas 77. I like Critchley, but I think his in-game decisions are terrible, e.g. his subs. What do you think? I will come to that. I will talk about that very, very shortly, because I do want to mention the substitutions. Is 5th even a European spot next year? I do believe it is, but if Celtic win the Cup. But, I mean, I like the way Hearts lined up. I thought it was decent. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of George Grant. I've said it previously. Folk on TikTok know my thoughts on him. He's been here over 2 years and not done enough for me. But I thought Hearts started well. We were starting on the front foot. I thought we had a couple of big, big chances. Elton Kabanga's got a very good effort that was really well saved by Jack Walton. And then the big chance to me is James Wilson, who I'll come on to very shortly as well, because a big decision on that. But there's a big opportunity for James Wilson. And like the chance he missed at Celtic Park last week, he has to hit the target there. It's a great ball by Spittle. He can actually take a touch and finish that. But he tries to take it first time and puts it wide. You have to work the goalkeeper. I like James Wilson, but you have to work the goalkeeper there. He has to finish that. It's a big opportunity. Not long after that, again, Blair Spittle's got a great opportunity on the right foot. He's edge of the box. He has to do better there again. He can bend that past Jack Walton. It's a really poor effort for me. It's too tame and it's straight at Jack Walton. Even on Sunday, how's you, mate? Yeah, I'm frustrated, mate. I'm not going to lie. I'm very frustrated. But I was actually quite pleased with how Hearts started the game. First 35 minutes, I thought we were the far better side. United didn't really offer too much. I don't think we had a big threat. You know, I was kind of concerned about United with the physical threat of Sam Dalby, but they didn't really offer a lot. And then the game completely changed in 30 minutes. This changes the game. So there's a challenge between James Wilson and Lucas Stevenson. Now, Wilson wins the ball. And initially, I think everyone thinks it's just the coming together. You know, it's a good challenge from James Wilson. But nobody could believe that Nick Walsh gives a red card. No one in the stadium could believe it. I couldn't believe it. Michael Stewart couldn't believe it. I could not understand why that was given. Now, I was raging. I'll be honest, I was raging at that. When I see it again, I'm still not convinced. I thought it was a fair challenge, a 50-50 challenge. He's won the ball. I was furious. I was raging. I said it on TikTok. I said it on Twitter. I was not happy. When you watch it again a few times and you see a different angle of it, I can understand why it was given. Because it does look like it's a bit late. It does look like it's harsh, a rash challenge. It's the follow-through. But again, I look at the one yesterday from Kofi Bammer on Fraser Murray. That's not a sending off for me. And I thought the same today. But again, having watched it slowed down, I can see why he's given it. And VAR's not going to overturn that because they can see it's not clear and obvious. I think I'm very split on it. I think it's 50-50. I'm very split on it. I can't decide if it's a red card or not, but I can see why it's given. Now, there was nothing wrong with Stevenson. He gets up and gets on with the game. I do feel sorry for Wilson because he's not malicious. It's not done with any intent. I think it's very, very harsh, is my opinion. I don't think there's a lot in that. Archie B, feel like every shot was down the keeper's throat. Finish was poor and has been recently. Yeah, I would agree with that. Our finishing was not good enough in that first 35 minutes. If we take one of those chances, we win that game, I think. But the game changes in that sending off. It completely changes in that sending off. Again, like I say, I can understand why it's given. You were the better team, but what a header. Yeah. I mean, it was a great header. I'll come to that. He were learning. All he can do now is bounce back from the red. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've seen a lot of criticism of James Wilson. I can see why it's given. I think it's not done with any intent. There's no malice in there, but I can see why it's given a red card. I'm not going to return that. But that changes the game because up until that point, I thought Hearts were the better side. I thought we were in complete control. We were dominating the game. United didn't really have a threat. You know, Craig Gordon had nothing to do. Scott Alexander, if he gives a yellow, VAR wouldn't change it. Not exactly. That's exactly what I've said as well. If that's a yellow card, I don't think anyone's complaining. I don't think Goodwin's complaining. I don't think anyone United's complaining. But once it's given a red, he's not going to return it because they don't think it's clear and obvious. But I feel sorry for Wilson. I really feel sorry for him. We definitely use number 9 in the summer. I would love someone like Dalby, who's an aerial threat. Thoughts? I mean, to be fair, Sam Dalby's had a good season for United. I thought up until he scored, they'd done nothing all game, but that's what he's done all season. He just scores goals. I would like to see Cabangu signed on a long-term deal. Now, I think he probably will sign. End of the season, I do think he'll stay, but we need more up front. You know, I will get to that in a minute. I do think we need more up front. You know, Shanklin, I think, will go in the summer. Wilson is a young laddie. I think we need more. But you know, after that sending off, the game changes, and we did very little after that. It was going to be difficult against 11 men. One thing I would criticise Critchley for, though, and again, I said this on TikTok earlier, what I would criticise him for is the substitutions, because at half-time, and I don't like it on Michael Stewart, but he was right. At half-time, we need a goal. We're still in the chance with the top 6 to win the game. And he doesn't bring Shankland on at half-time. And his first change is Cammy Devlin for Sander Khartoum. Why not bring a Shankland on? I think he made the substitutions far too late. Again, he then brings on Shankland and Nunehoff for Grant and Spittle, and he brings on Musa for Benny, but that was too late. That's what I criticised Critchley for. I think the subs were far too late. You have to bring Shankland down earlier than that. He left it far too late for me. And I don't understand why he brings Cammy Devlin on. Now, I don't think Khartoum is having a great game. You know, he's not a winger. And again, Michael Stewart said that during commentary as well. I was agreeing with him far too much during that game. But he's not a winger. I just think he left it far too late. You have to bring Shankland on earlier because all we had was Cabangu. There was a moment in the second half where Penrith plays a great ball in, and all we've got in the box is Cabangu against 3 defenders. You need more in there. That's what I'll criticise Critchley for. I don't think he made the changes early enough. Archie B, Cabangu and a clinical striker is what we need. Shame Shankland hasn't been firing this season and won't be here next year. See, I actually think Cabangu will stay. I think he wants to stay. And I genuinely think we'll keep that option of signing him permanently. I think he'll stay, personally. There was another comment there as well. Vargas. He's made substitutions too late all season, especially attacking players. Yeah, I would agree. I think his subs today were far, far too late. And I don't like agreeing with Michael Stewart, but he was right pretty much all game there. I saw another comment here. It's concerning how right Michael Stewart was. Yeah, he was. It was one of these games I was so frustrated because for 38 minutes we were the better side, couldn't take our chances. I can't blame Critchley for that. That's not on Critchley. That's on the forwards that didn't take their chances. But the sending off changes the game. Second half, it was a bit of a damp squib. We offered nothing. United get one chance and score it. It's really poor from Steinwender, who I'm a big, big fan of, but he gives the ball away in the middle of the park. It's a poor header. And then after that, we don't defend it well. It's a great cross from Glenn Middleton. But again, I think Steinwender's got to do better. You know, it's a good header from Dalby, but you've got to go and engage him. You've got to get tighter and stop him making that header. It's a great header from Dalby. He's done it all season, but I think it's poor all round from Hearts. And from then on, we were never going to get back in the game. We never let us score in 1, let alone 2. And the game was done. Well done, United. You know, I think United this season have been fantastic. And they've come to Tynecastle with a game plan. They stuck to it. Yes, the sending off changes the game. But at 0-0, when we're a man down, we don't make a change. Dundee United make 3 changes. And they were all attacking changes. Fair play to Jim Goodwin. You know, he gets massive credit for that. But we just didn't do enough in that game. He bends the ball round. He bends round the defender. It's a ridiculous goal. It's a fantastic goal from Sam Dalby, but I've got to blame Michael Steinwender for that twice. Because firstly, it's a poor header in the first place. And then secondly, you have to engage. It's really poor defending. I'm a big fan of Steinwender. He's done brilliantly, but that was really poor for me defensively. And we never looked like scoring. You know, Tynecastle was very flat, understandably. We never looked like scoring after that. I thought, yet again, Benny was our best player, as he has been for weeks. You know, Jack Walton, I know, Sandy, you said here, Walton was class for us. He didn't have much to do in the second half. I thought he did well first half with effort from Cabangu. But we just offered nothing. We offered absolutely nothing. It's very difficult playing with 10 men. But I have seen 10 men win before. I've seen 9 men win before. Rangers against St Mirren in the League Cup final. But it wasn't good enough from Hearts. From my view, from behind the goal, Steinwender could have got a bit more physical. That's what I think as well. He's got to do better there. I think Steinwender's been excellent since he's coming in January. I think he's been a really good signer, but that, for me, was let down there. The 700 United fans outsang the Hearts fans for most part. Well, that's understandable. You know, you're 1-0 up, you're against 10 men, that's understandable. We weren't good enough when we got the man sent off. It's very frustrating. I used the word on TikTok, it's very frustrating. Well done, United. They were a fantastic season. They're now 2 points off Aberdeen in 4th. What a season Jim Goodwin's having. And that's the second time they won at Tynecastle this season. They won 1-0 early in the season with Ross Graham's goal. We won 1-0 at Tannadice with James Penrice's goal. And then today you've won 1-0. All the games were very tight. I knew today would be tight. But I thought we'd win. But the sender-off changes it. the sending-off changes the game completely, because I don't think if we get the red card, we lose that game. But it's one of these things. I can't complain about it as one of these things. But yet again, I've seen a lot of criticism of Neil Critchley on Twitter. I've seen a lot of folk on my TikTok saying Neil Critchley should go. I don't agree with that. I do think he's done a good job since he came in October. When he came in, we were bottom of the league. Now, again, a lot of folk will look at the fact that David Gray's done well at Hibs and the turnaround there. They've been consistent. I don't think they've played brilliantly, but they've been consistent. We've not been. We're not picking up points that we should have done. Now, I'll give a little bit of leeway here to Critchley, because when he came in, we had European football and he had no time to train the players. I think that went against him. He's had one window. That's not enough. You need more than one transfer window to change things, and he's not really had that. I am still firmly behind Neil Critchley. Now, if anyone wants to say he should go, I'm not going to criticise him for that, because it's their opinion. But I still think he's done a good job. We can still get top 6. It's in our own hands. We go to Fir Park next week and win, then we've done it. We've also got a cup semi-final to look forward to against Aberdeen. We win that, we're in a cup final. Now, it's going to be difficult to win it, because it'll probably be Celtic. Although fair play to St Johnstone today, that is a huge win at McDermott Park against Celtic. Nobody saw that coming. I mean, that's a coupon buster, that. But we need to go to Fir Park and win next week. Now, a point might be enough. If we draw next week and St Mirren don't beat Ross County, then we've got top 6. But I think St Mirren will beat Ross County. So next week is massive. It's still in our own hands. Wilson's now suspended, so I think Shanklin will come back in. But we know what we've got to do next week. We know what we have to do today. And to be fair to Critchley, he's set up to attack with a 4-2-4 formation. It was a very bold decision to drop Lawrence Shanklin, but I think it worked, kind of, because I thought we played well up until we sent it off. There has been times I'll be critical of Critchley. The Hibs games, yes, they've not been good enough. But I've said it before. People talk about the big games against Aberdeen, against Celtic, against Rangers. The game at Pittodrie, the 0-0 draw. If George Grant scores the penalty in the last minute, we win that game. Things are different. The Ross County game in Dingwall, that still frustrates me. We're 2-0 up, absolutely cruising the game, and lose 2 goals in the last 2 minutes. That's unacceptable. That should not happen. The Rangers game at Tynecastle, the 3-1 game, we were brilliant that day, I thought. We were a far better team. We had 21 attempts and didn't score. We go a goal down, unfortunately. But then we get back to 1-1 with Steinwinder's goal. And at 1-1, we should have had a penalty for the challenge on Wilson. We don't get it, and Rangers go to the park and score. Again, that's not on Critchley. That's on the referee and those players for me. I would bring Musa back in for Grant next week. What do you think? I mean, again, I heard Michael Stewart talking about Musa and saying it's bad recruitment. It's a bit harsh, I think, on Musa. He's still a young laddie. He's not really had a lot of game time. But I wouldn't be against him starting next week. And definitely for Khartoum, I thought Khartoum was pretty poor today, but he's not a winger. He's not a wide player. Again, this is the one thing I think I would probably say against Critchley. I think he's done well in January with the signings. What he didn't bring in was pace though out wide. We should have brought in Islam Chesnikov, but it didn't happen. If Musa starts this week, I'm not going to be gutted. He probably needs a run in the team and a bit of pace up there. We need to do something next week. We have to win the game next week. Again, I go on social media and I see a lot of criticism of Critchley saying he's not good enough for Hearts. He's not big enough for Hearts. But if Critchley goes, who are you bringing in? It's another rebuild. I don't think now's the time to sack Neil Critchley. He's got a cup semi to look forward to, and we can still get top 6 next week. I don't think now's the time to sack Neil Critchley. The players have got to take responsibility as well. This is on them as well. It's not just on Neil Critchley. He set the team up today to try and be attacking and try and be creative. And for the first 35 minutes, it was working. But once we get to send it off, the game completely changes. But I still believe that Critchley's a good manager. Now, again, I've gone on record as saying that when he came in, I wasn't a big fan. I looked at his record at Blackpool and at previous clubs, and I wasn't a big fan. But he turned me around. I can see what he's trying to do. But I believe that the summer is a big, big thing for Neil Critchley. With the whole Jamestown and Tony Bloom thing coming on, I think the summer is going to be huge. There'll be a massive, massive rebuild. I can see 7 or 8 players leaving and 7 or 8 players coming in. There's a massive rebuild there. If you get top 6, where do you think you'll finish? 6th. I don't think we're getting higher than that. Because, again, we've not beat Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen or Hibs, and we'll have to play them if we finish top 6. I don't see us getting enough points. So I think we'll finish 5th. 6th, sorry. I think United will finish probably 5th. His signings have been class so far. I think that as well. Like, look at the signings he's made in January. Elton Kabangu came in, relative unknown. He's our top scorer with 8 goals. Sander Khartoum came in, again, unknown. He wasn't great today, but he got those 2 goals against Dundee that got us to a Scottish Cup semi-final. Jamie McCart was great until he got injured. I think he's been excellent. The only one I'd probably say that hasn't really worked yet is Harry Milne, because he's not had a lot of games. He played last week against Celtic, but apart from that, he's not really had a lot of games. But I think all the things have been pretty decent. I'm really pleased with them. And they will take time to gel. You know, I do believe, again, that I think Kabangu will stay. I think he'll sign long-term. But there are other players will leave. Wilson's development has also been really good over Critchley's run so far. See, that's another thing. Again, I have heard a lot of criticism for James Wilson. I'm not going to have a go at the laddie. He's 18 years old. He's come into a really difficult situation, and he's got 6 goals this season. He's our second top scorer. Yes, today you could look at it and say the red card's his fault. Again, I think it's very, very difficult. It's 50-50 for me. It's very, very harsh. There's a couple of chances I think he could do better with, like last week and like today. But I have seen far more experienced strikers miss chances that Wilson has. Lawrence Shankland, for example. I'm not going to blame Wilson for that. He's a young laddie learning his trade who's come into a team that's been struggling this season and done very well. If folk on social media are criticising Wilson, then I'm sorry. But you need to stop it. He's a young laddie. What are you going to get from criticising the guy? It's very, very harsh for me. He's actually 18. Milne does seem like just a backup to Penrice. I mean, I was surprised that Milne started last week and he started as a right-sided left-back. That's not his position. He's a left-back. But I thought he did okay last week. I thought it was pretty solid. Penrice wasn't as involved from what I've seen at Hearts. Yeah, I thought Penrice struggled a little bit to get into the game. There was a couple of bits of decent link-up in the first half with him and Spittle. But I keep on talking about it. Once we get the red card, the game changes. It all changes in that red card. Penrice can't get forward as much as he wants to do. We couldn't get involved as much as we want to do. The red card completely changes it. But I'm not going to go in too harsh on James Wilson. He's 18 years old. I'm not going to go too hard on him. I'm happy Sam Cleo Harding got the nod to play at 18. Yeah, I actually thought he was decent, to be fair. He made a mistake in the first half. The ball bounced over him for Kabangu, which is a great save from Walton. But apart from that, I thought he did quite well. I thought he was pretty solid. But I'm just frustrated. You know, I keep using that word. I'm so frustrated because today was a big opportunity and the sending off changes it. But again, I'm not... The only thing I'm critical of Critchley for is the substitutions. He didn't make them early enough, and I think he should bring Shankland on far earlier than he did. But that race for top 6 is so, so tight. You're looking at Hearts and 6 on 39 points. St Mirren and Motherwell both on 38 points. Ross Kent is out of it, of course, so will Kilmarnock. It all goes to next week, but it's in our own hands. We go to Fir Park and win, we've done it. Now, I'm not going to, if we finish top 6, I'm not going to say it's a big achievement because it's not. Hearts should be far higher than that. We should be challenging for 3rd place, and we're not. It's been a disappointing season, but look at last season. We finished 3rd. Hibs and Aberdeen finished outside the top 6. These things happen in football. Those two have kicked on, we've not. It's just one of these frustrating things in football. It is disappointing. Somebody asked me on TikTok earlier as well, if we don't win the Scottish Cup, Critchley should go. Again, I disagree with that. The likelihood is we're going to be playing Celtic. And it's Celtic have not lost at Hampden for God knows how long. I'm not sacking Neil Critchley. He needs another transfer window. He needs a summer transfer window. Thoughts on Hoff? Personally, I'm not convinced by him. I like Hoff. I think he's a really good footballer. He came on. He obviously played against St Mirren when he came back and scored that goal. He's not starting a lot of games. I'd kind of like to see him start. I think he's a really good footballer. Before he got injured, for me, he was one of the best players for us. Who do you think will leave in the summer? I think it could be 9 or 10 players. Well, Barry Mackay will go. Like, Barry Mackay's going to be going. He's one of the top earners. He has to go. George Grant could leave. Alan Forrest could leave. There's probably Lawrence Shanklin, and it's the big one that'll leave. I think he'll go. There's quite a few that I think will leave. I think we'll see a very different team starting next season. Also, the one thing I would say as well, I don't think pre-season this season was good enough. We played 3 pre-season games this season. That's not enough to get fit. When you've got European games to come, three pre-season games is not enough. I think it was an absolute shambles of pre-season, and that was on Stephen Naismith. That's not helped, I don't think. If St Johnstone can repeat a result against Celtic, then maybe Critchley could be talked about being sacked. But even then, it's a one-off game. I mean, if we were, let's just say, for example, right, St Johnstone beat Celtic in the semi-final. I don't think they will. And we beat Aberdeen and then lose to St Johnstone in the final. I can understand folk raging about Critchley. But that won't happen, I don't think. Like, that was a one-off for St Johnstone today. But I am still firmly behind Neil Critchley. He needs a far, far bigger window than this. I want Celtic to win the Cup for United European hopes. I think they probably will win it, to be honest, Sandy. I hope they don't. I hope Hearts win it, but I think they probably will win it. But I just, as I say, I'm not going to criticise folk that want Critchley out because it's their opinion, but I am nowhere near on that bandwagon yet. Today is a massive frustration. It was in our own hands and we blew it, but the red card changes the game. I am not Critchley out, not by a long shot. He needs a summer window. He needs a complete clear out of that squad. And I think we'll see a very different Hearts side next summer, next season, I believe. But going into next week, it's in our own hands. Like, I do believe that St Mirren will beat Ross County, which means that we have to beat Motherwell. If we'd got a point today, then I'll draw next week with the help because we've got a better goal difference. But we have to win next week now. And going to Fir Park is not easy. Motherwell know if they win, the top 6 theirs. It is so, so difficult. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm confident for next week because I'm not. I'm genuinely not. Not everyone can have a good win, so have the second best. Who do you think will lose the summer from the starting 11? Well, I think from the starting 11, looking at today, George Grant will be away, I think. Apart from that, I don't actually know. I think this is Craig Gordon's last season. I think Craig Gordon retires after this season. And I said that again on TikTok. I do not think Xander Clark signs a new contract if he's not guaranteed to play next season. And I said that to Craig Cairns last week. So I do believe that this is Craig Gordon's last season. There was a few days ago, there was a lot of talk about Craig Gordon going to St Johnstone. That was an April Fool joke. That's not going to happen. I genuinely think that Gordon will stick around and be a coach at Tynecastle. That's my thoughts anyway. Xander Clark is good enough. I like Xander Clark. I think he's really unfortunate. Xander Clark, apart from Celtic and Rangers, Xander Clark's a first-team starter at every other club in the league, without any doubt. But it's because Craig Gordon's in front of him. And Craig Gordon's a great goalkeeper. Has Craig Gordon made mistakes this season? Yes, he has. He couldn't do anything about the goal today. That's not on him. But I think Xander Clark is too good to sit on the bench. And I do think the next season he will start. Personally. Give us Beningame, lad, please. You're no getting him, pal. Really low release clause, apparently, on Devlin. See, again, I like Cammy Devlin. I think he does really well, but I don't understand today why he got brought on at 0-0. You have to win the game to finish top 6. I don't understand why his first sub is Devlin and not Lawrence Shanklin. I thought it was a poor decision from Critchley. Personally. Very poor game overall. Even in Mikey. Yeah, I mean, I thought, like I said earlier, I thought for 35 minutes Hearts was the better team. I thought we were in complete control. But the sending off completely changes the game. If that sending off doesn't happen, I think we'll win the game. But again, we'll never know now. It's a great header from Sam Dalby. Fantastic header. But the sending off changes the game. As I say, I'm not going to go in too hard on James Wilson because he's still a young laddie. I just think there's no malice in that challenge. There's no intent in that challenge. He's unfortunate. But as I say, having watched a couple of replays, having slowed it down, I can see why it's given. But next week is absolutely huge. I did not want to go into this game next week coming to win the game. And if we won today, we wouldn't have had to do this. But I am concerned. I am very concerned. Now, I can't sit here and lie and say I'm not. Having to go to Fir Park to win, I'm not confident. I mean, during the week, I probably will say Hearts will win because I have to back my team, but I'm not confident. Like, as I say earlier on in the video, I didn't mind the team that lined up today. I thought it was a team to try and win the game, but the sending off changes it. Mikey, still a decision to make, though in my opinion, always running the risk when you go and studs up. See, again, I even look at the decision from Kofi Bammer yesterday. I don't think that's a sending off on Fraser Murray. I think that's a really poor decision. I can see why Nick Walsh gives the decision today. I was raging, but I can see why he gives it. It's one of these ones that if it's a yellow card, I don't think anyone complains. If it's a red card, again, I can see why it's given, but I'm still 50-50 on it. But that game next week is so huge. If we don't finish top 6, I am not going to say Critchley should be sacked. I've said that previously. He's done a good job. Yes, he's not won a big game against the top 6 teams, but I do still believe he's done a good job. And I'm not going to change my opinion based on next week. But if we can win next week and get top 6, then it's not a big achievement, but it's a lot better than what I thought it was going to be. Because I was worried about relegation weeks and weeks ago. So yeah, today is massively frustrating. I'm very, very disappointed that we've not won that game today and we've lost the game. But as I keep on going back to the red card changes the game, if we don't get the sending off, I don't think we lose the game. Kofi Bammer's one, never a red. The challenge today for me is a red, but that might be biased simply based on the fact that his leg is broken if it's planted. I mean, again, I think it's one of these ones, like I said, if it's given as a yellow, I don't think anyone's complaining. Stevenson apparently had blood all over his socks after the game. With a nosebleed. Yeah, I mean, I'm so frustrated today because that was such an opportunity. Archie B, people forget. Yeah, I actually was going to say that. Holding the wrong leg is a bad look, though. I heard that mentioned in commentary. That was bizarre. I mean, that was really, really bizarre. Fair play to him, though. I didn't even notice that. That's like shithouse, that like. People forget where Hearts were before Critchley came in. That's the kind of point I've said earlier. We were pretty much rock bottom. In December, we were bottom of the league. He has turned it around. And I keep saying this isn't all on him. This is on the players as well. They've not been good enough for some of these games. But it's not just on Critchley. But I do think he deserves longer. I think he needs a summer transfer window. Look at Hibs, for example. In November time, they could have sacked David Gray. They didn't. And they've now only lost 2 games since that Aberdeen game in November. And those are both the Celtic. You can't just keep sacking managers every time a result doesn't go for you. He needs a summer window. He needs a complete recruitment drive in summer. I keep on saying it. 7 or 8 players will go, 7 or 8 will come in. This isn't all on Neil Critchley for me. There are things he could do better. As I said, the substitutions today were a bit too late, and I don't know why he didn't bring Shankland on earlier. Although you lot were in a bad spot at the start of the season, Hearts were 3rd with 2 semis last season with a weaker squad. So I can see both sides. It's a fair point, Mikey. It is a fair point. I mean, nobody could have seen the turnaround in Hibs this season. Like I said, everyone thought David Gray was going to get sacked. They'd lost 4-1 to Dundee. Then they had that 3-3 draw with Aberdeen. And they've lost 2 games since. Hibs have a consistency. They're winning games that we've not won. They're winning big games. They're winning like games like yesterday at Ibrox that we've just not been winning. And that's where the difference is. Hibs have got consistency. Hearts haven't. Next week's game, as I say, is massive. We go into that game with it in our own hands. We win next week, we've got top 6, and we've got a semi-final to look forward to. And again, these players are playing for a semi-final place. They have to go out there next week and put in everything before that game against Aberdeen. They have to show up next week. And there's been too many games this season they've not shown up in. Like today, I don't want to keep repeating my point, but today the game changed on that red card. I don't think we'll lose the game if that's not given a red card. But it is what it is. But as I say, I'm still behind Neil Critchley. I'm not going to say we need to sack him. I'm not on that bandwagon at all. But people keep talking about the fact that Neil Critchley doesn't win big games. Well, next week is the biggest game of his season so far. He has to win that game next week. But it's not just him. The players have got to do more next week. Wilson's going to be out. I think Shanklin will come back in. Pretty sure the difference between 6th and 7th is near 150 grand. If we finish top 6, I think that's where we'll finish. I don't think we're going to catch United in 5th. We certainly won't catch Hibs and Aberdeen. If we finish top 6, that's where we finish, I think. I think Hearts' season has been poor under the radar. Such a drop-off from last season, but it's forgotten because you aren't as bad as you were at the start. Even if you go back to last season, the only reason we finished 3rd last season is because Lawrence Shanklin's scoring goals left, right and centre. He's not done that this season. Nobody's been consistent enough. The only one that's been consistent is Benny, who's been great this season. But yeah, Lawrence Shanklin's form has been so poor this season, and that's where the drop-off has come. If he was scoring the amount of goals he was last season, we wouldn't be in this position. But like I keep saying, we are where we are. You look at that league table, and it is so tight. But a win next week, and we've got top 6. As I keep saying, it's not been great. Like, finishing top 6 is not an achievement for a team like Hearts. We should not be finishing top 6. We should be 3rd. But we're not. And that's on everybody. That's on Naismith, that's on Critchley, that's on the players. That's on everybody. But it is what it is. Anyway, I'm going to head off just now and eat my dinner. But thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you for liking. If you can subscribe to the channel if you're not already, then please subscribe. It's much appreciated. Thank you for all the comments. Have a cracking rest of the night. And I'll catch us again all next week.